Hello guys and welcome. In today's video we're gonna talk about Elden Ring. Shadow of the Earth Tree, the next expansion, right? So what really pisses me off about Elden Ring, is that, we already spent like, 40-50 bucks to buy Elden Ring, right? And now they want us to, pay like 40-50 bucks for expansion, right? Meanwhile, they didn't really fix any of the issues we have been talking about in the last 1 or 2 years, right? So if you just look at the facts, okay, let's just look at the facts here, okay? We still have no rank leaderboard or rewards for any PvP content, right? Which means is that there is almost no reason to do PvP in this game if you're not like a content creator, if you don't really love the game or wanna try things, right? And the whole game is supposed to be designed around character building, right? But then you realize you cannot really theory craft in this game because you have limited amount of items, larva tiers you can actually use to reset the stats on your character. So you see, this is one of the biggest problems with Elden Ring. How can one game be so innovative but also so outdated at the same time? Right? Half of the game it feels like we are just fighting with the outdated game design here. And every time somebody criticizes the game design, you either get downvoted or they simply don't care, right? I mean, it's just like somebody who loves gaming, like, I just feel like Elden Ring could be so much more. The game could be so much more, there is so much potential. And it's literally the same story with every game a lot of these Japanese gaming studios make, right? So much potential, they could make dream game for us. But they still have this outdated mentality. Final Fantasy, Monster Hunter, one of the biggest franchises in the world. But they know how to make good games, but they don't know how to make complete games, and that's the biggest problem. And we have been complaining so much, we have been talking about so much, there are so many content videos talking about Elden Ring on YouTube, for example. And did they address any of those issues, right? No, they really didn't. Okay, so let's look at the facts. No rank leaderboard or rewards for any PvP content. The lack of social features. There's literally zero social features in this game. There is no chat, there is no voice chat or any form of voice lines, right? Zero social features, right? Your experience, like, also there is like zero, like, they could easily make a new city, like a multiplayer hub where people could hang out, talk, while they're waiting for invasion and Colosseum matches. Right, but right now all we are doing is waiting at the roundhouse table or at the Colosseum, which is like a dead zone with zero NPCs around, zero player interaction, right? You can only use one spell at once, so magic will never really be good in this game, because you literally have to scroll from one spell to another in the middle of a PvP battle. There is no action bar, which would, imagine how much easier it would be if you would just have a simply action bar in this game. So you could use, one spell on 1 or 2 or 3, right? I mean, games 20 years ago had this. I know they call it a design, but this is just outdated game design. That's not really good for most of the player base. And yeah, I know people say, yeah, this is a Soul series, it's a Soul game, but that's not really a good excuse for outdated game design that hurts players, right? And why are we designing the whole game around character building? I mean, this is literally one of the most fun thing about Elden Ring, is that you collect all these different magic and spells, and then maybe later you can try it in PvP, right? But then you can only reset character stats like 14 times or so, 20 times, and you see, you often have to reset your character stats multiple times to try different builds, right? It's very fun, but you almost need to do that if you wanna beat certain bosses in the game, if you're not using some overpowered weapon, and then people say it's easy. Yeah, it's easy if you're using overpowered weapons, but if you actually wanna theory craft, if you actually wanna enjoy the game, try all different spell combinations and weapons. You can't really do that if you're not resetting, if you're not making a new game. you know. It almost feels like the whole game was designed so we play it like multiple times, so they have more playtime, you know. They say how popular is this game, and then you have YouTubers and their bots who promote it while they can, you know, and then they just move on. Like, most people don't really care. What they don't realize, especially these, you know, Japanese gaming studios that don't really like criticism and they have outdated game design, is that people who criticize your game are actually the ones who are usually the most passionate, who love your game the most, right? And there are so many design issues. Like, we are still designing the whole action combat around spamming dodge, immunity frames, and parrying, you know. And then you have netcode, you have pair-to-pair connection. So this game PvP will never be good because it really, sometimes it needs time to even register your actions. You cannot really adopt, you literally have to abuse the most meta items, the most meta weapons, the poise, and that's how they win, you know. And you know, it's just like, and it's also like, if you guys didn't realize that how many assets they actually just use from previous games, and even in the new expansion we're gonna now have to pay even more money for. There's so many assets they're reusing, right? And a lot of these companies, they also use AI to make their games, you know. Just like how YouTubers, 50% of YouTubers you watch use bots like a promotional accounts, because a lot of these platforms like Reddit and YouTube are not really designed to get opinion. They don't really care about your opinion. They're designed for promotion. And this game is also, Elden Ring is, what is the biggest problem with Elden Ring? You see, when you start Elden Ring, it's like, wow, all this fun new experience. But when you are going towards the end game, you realize it turns into a job. You just want to be done with it because sometimes it's so frustrating. It's almost like the game is designed to frustrate you, right? And if these guys want us to pay like $40-50 for expansion, they better fix some of these issues. I mean, that's at least they owe us, right? We already invested so much energy into things. We paid for Elden Ring, right? But did they fix any of the important issues like social aspect, right? Imagine how cool it will be if we would actually have guilds fighting for setting up a new records for clearing bosses every time. There will be boss cleared for the first time, or every time there will be a fastest record time to clear the boss. There could be a huge announcer on the server for everybody to see, and you could have whole guilds competing for world first and world fastest bosses clears, right? Or if you actually had social features like chat bubbles or voice chat. Imagine how this could literally make Elden Ring 3 times more popular, because it will be huge for content creators who literally lead the gaming market currently, right? Or actual multiplayer hub. I mean, just more interactive experience. Like, all you are doing currently is waiting at the roundhouse table with 0 NPCs, with the sad music and 0 player interaction. How is that a good experience for most of the players? It's really not, you know? And there are so many of these issues, like, or how half of the quests can bug out, or they have 50-50 chance, so you have to, restart the whole game. I know you can just start new game too, and you have this, you have everything you already had, but you have to do everything again. It's like, there is a lot of frustrating game design, outdated game design they never really addressed, and magic will also never be really good in this game, because you can only cast one spell at once, and you have no action bar, you know. You literally have to you have to install like mods like this one, Emulate, and even this doesn't work. I spent so much to try to set this up, it doesn't work. And I even have to use this ad so my map actually opens, because my game is glitched for some reason, or my keybinds are glitched, so I have to use this to even open the map. Like, what? And now you have this action combat that is designed around spamming immunity frames, parry, and you have peer-to-peer connection. So you don't really have a real-time connection, which in the game like this that's not good. Like, they want us to spend like $100 for a game, but they don't even do a good good multiplayer connection. There's barely any PvP content in this game. Right? They removed factions, we have no rank leaderboard, no rewards, something every competitive player wants. You know, I'm surprised they even add Colosseum in the game, but what's the point of Colosseum if you have no rewards or no factions, no rewards, no leaderboards, nothing like that. No social interaction, right? And the game is literally designed to frustrate you. And now they want us to pay even more for it. Like, come on. Why do they never address any of these issues, I wonder? This is my question. And now, instead of addressing some of these issues we have been talking for like last 5 years, they just make new expansion and they want us to pay the full price for the expansion, with half of the assets being copied from previous games, you know? This is literally Malek post, isn't it? I mean, or... I don't know. I mean, it's just like somebody who loves gaming, like, I just feel like Elden Ring could be so much more. The game could be so much more, there is so much potential. And it's literally the same story with every game a lot of these Japanese gaming studios make, right? So much potential, they could make dream game for us, but they still have this outdated mentality. Final Fantasy, Monster Hunter, one of the biggest franchises in the world. But they know how to make good games, but they don't know how to make complete games, and that's the biggest problem. Like Final Fantasy, they call it a social game, yet they barely have any social features like voice chat or chat bubbles. You literally have to watch the chat box in the corner of your screen. That's the best social experience you get in so-called social game. In Monster Hunter, you return back to the city is empty, just NPCs standing there, zero player interaction. You can't even tame those epic monsters and proudly showing it to your enemies. No real open world, you know? The lack of multiplayer and open world and social elements is what is holding this game back. Or imagine if in Monster Hunter we actually had guilds fighting to clear bosses. For the fastest boss time, you could have leaderboards with rewards and guilds competing against each other. They still think that games are only about teamwork. They think that competitive spirit is what is bad for the game. It's toxic. It's not. It's literally what makes people play your game. A complete game needs to have both PvE and PvP elements. A complete game needs to have both teamwork and competitive spirit. You know, competition, rivalry. This is what makes it fun and competitive. And how you guys have been handling your franchise is more toxic than anything else. We wanted for you two guys to make a dream game for us. But no, you make good games, but you don't know how to make complete games. And it's really a shame because you have one of the best franchises in your hand, man. Like, just like Total Warhammer or Lothar Conquest, like, Jesus Christ. So much wasted potential here, you know. I would just wanted for them to make a dream game for us, but they have all this outdated game design that is holding their games back, so their games don't really last more than few years, if even that, you know, because they have no lifelong longevity features that will allow community and to last more than few years. No social interaction, you know.